I think the professor is running late. I think, does this mean we don't have to stay for class?
I think we just like sit around and talk and are loud, and then he comes in and does the quiet down.
Yeah. I can so picture Pat in a tweed blazer too, just coming in a huff.
Oh yeah.
Dude, look at I just noticed your ship chasing shirt.
Yeah. Rocking the ship chasing. I got a little flack last week for not wearing it. It didn't come. It came a little later to me, but I got the ship chasing tee. I almost rocked this tonight.
The tank?
Rock this maybe on the draft stream. This is the.
Oh God, it looks so good on the baby blue.
Look at the baby blue. Ooh.
I gotta get the baby blue.
We'll do that on the draft stream. I'll have to bust that out.
And you're what have you eaten today? Have you had one kale chip?
Oh no, I housed some food today. Today is the end of it. Yeah. I did 5 days before this of like a, rejuvenation, whatever, fast mimic diet.
Yeah.
So that was very low cal for 5 days. But that was good, man. It's always good to hit reset on the system. Yeah.
So what are your kind of goals going forward now?
Oh, my wife wanted to do that actually. I've done keto a bunch of times. I like to just do it like, I don't know. I mean, there's definitely periods where I just eat whatever I want to. So I don't really like define goals super well. It's sort of like everything in moderation thing. And then when I'm doing it, I have a lot of experience with the restrictive stuff. When I'm doing that kind of stuff, I'm thinking like, I've already, written these checks. Now I got to cash them, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard finding something that's sustainable. I had to do a reset now, and I know it's been hard for me. I've limited myself to drinking once a week since my trip, and I think I've coming up now on 4 weeks I'm doing this, and I'm almost reset, like back to the spot I wanted to get. I've been working out more, and then I can get back to drinking in the week. But every now and again, you just have to reset because you realize things have gotten out of control. Yeah.
And like for me, since 2016, every year I've done at least a month of full keto, no drinking, like very, very low carb, low sugar. And that's always been really successful for me. But then like, when you ask like, what are my goals when I finish it? Like I just ate like shit today. I mean, I just, I didn't like, you're supposed to like wean off it. And I just, got barbecue for lunch. I was like, I'm hungry.
Yeah, that can be one of the things that happens. I remember when I first was doing more of the intermittent fasting, and I wouldn't eat all day, and then I'd be just so hungry that I'd eat a bunch of shit. And then I realized some tricks of like, okay, you need to get your like meal prepared early for later in the night, so you have it there. Because if you just go and you're just like, I am starving, I have nothing, it's like, all right, then I'm ordering Chinese food. Like,
oh yeah, for sure.
Yes, we are going to talk about running backs tonight. Ben and I are doing a technique in the show business called stalling, waiting for our professor to get here. But have you been, I'm starting to get a little, I've been reading some mock drafts.
I've been grinding it for sure. I've been in the middle of that draft that we talked about the last couple of weeks. It got held up over the weekend because NFL was down, but we're getting into the later part of the second round. So as that's been going, I'm kind of on a rebuild in that league. I've been trying to trade in a little bit. Hasn't really worked, but I've been certainly sort of like building my ranks as we go through this draft. And yeah, I've developed some takes. I mean, I think Pat did a really good job of walking us through the receivers last week. I mean, you have Chase at the top for sure. And then you have Devonta, Pat made a really good case for a Waddle. Obviously, Devonta Smith's going to have the draft capital, and he's somebody who Pat made a good case last week that we shouldn't care about his senior season, but was somewhat productive in his junior year. So, there's ways you can see him be productive. Pat made the case for Waddle. You had to squint a little. I think Bateman might be my wide receiver too still, even though the size issues. But you have those guys, and you have Rondell Moore, Terrace Marshall. But it is a deep and interesting class. Pat mentioned like Tylan Wallace last week and talked about him a little bit, the guy who tore his ACL, Elijah Moore. But as you get further down, even like De'Ami Brown and Seth Williams is the guy that I think is a little bit underrated.
I'm psyched you're so psyched about him.
Yeah, I'm pretty psyched about him. 3-year guy, broke out, has some size. One of the only guys with the size. My take, though, has become that like Chase is a really good prospect, And then, Devonta and Bateman and Waddle, all of these guys we can make little knocks on. Rondale Moore, we can talk about, his lack of his production profile is fantastic, but his low ADOT, lack of downfield production. He's only 5'7". What do we really know about how he can translate? It's, fit's going to matter a little. There's reasons that you've made arguments for guys like Waddle or even Terrace Marshall to be top 3 in this class. And then you get down to guys like Seth, Williams? Why am I blanking on his last name? And you're like, what? Like, his profile is not that much different. I don't know. I think it's my argument would be that other than draft capital, it's fairly flat from like the wide receiver 2 to like the wide receiver 10 or 12. And so in rookie drafts, I mean, I think draft capital is going to end up dictating a lot. It always does, but it probably shouldn't. And in rookie drafts, I think those like mid to late second round picks, whatever wide receivers you can get there, are going to be super, super valuable this year. Like, I'm going to be really interested in acquiring those.
I think the draft capital should have a big impact.
I meant landing spot. I said that wrong.
Oh, okay. I agree. I think landing spot's almost always overrated. But I think with the draft capital, there's enough guys. And like you said, they're pretty close to each other. They're all sort of in one big group. And so we've got a lot of options. We just need a few of these guys to go second round, a few of these guys to go third round. And then we're excited about whoever those guys are. Elijah Moore is another guy Phil's mentioning in the chat. Elijah Moore, like, he's really he hits all those boxes that we want. And he's actually a little bit taller than Rondale Moore. He's a little bit undersized. He's more of a slot wide receiver.
Everyone's taller than Rondale Moore. Who's not? My daughter is taller than Rondale Moore.
Literally a low bar to clear.
Sorry, I should say he's a similar weight, but he's a little taller. He's kind of a similar like slot wide receiver, undersized, but he's fast and he checks all the boxes. But he's not like that like freak athlete that Rondale Moore is for his height. So people are generally not quite as excited about him, but he could be kind of a Jamison Crowder type in the NFL and be kind of a high volume guy. So he's someone that doesn't get as much love, but I think is firmly in the group that you were just talking about.
Right. All these guys should be, I think. I mean, I think Williams should be too. Like Chris says in the chat that Seth Williams might not get the draft capital. That seems to be the only knock on him. He's a 3-year early declare, was very productive as a true freshman. And then in the SEC, and then and formerly a 4-star out of high school recruit, I think I was reading, was always highly touted, went to Auburn, kind of shocked some people. I think he's from Tuscaloosa. That a lot of people thought he'd go to Alabama. He went to Auburn. But like in the SEC was dominant for 3 career years. Every year his dominant rating was really good. I think it was like 0.26, and then it was over 0.3 both of his next 2 years. I mean, you can't beat that as far as production profile for an SEC guy. And he's got size. And people are just saying like he's slow-footed and all this stuff. We've always said, don't worry about athleticism at the wide receiver position. Whatever, film grinding. He looks like he's got that my ball mentality. Like he gets a little physical. Yeah. He gets up and catches some TDs on his clips, and he's like shoving dudes away after the catch. I don't know. I like the guy. I'm stoked about getting him in the late second because people are concerned about draft capital. And then, ideally he could get draft capital. If he gets draft capital,
he could easily get draft capital.
If he goes in the second or third round, suddenly people are going to talk about him in the late.
He's a much better prospect than like Denzel Mims, so that late second round spot is I think
slander Denzel Mims. He's a
much better prospect than Michael Pittman. If you want a bigger wide receiver, he's not huge. We should say he seems like a big wide receiver for this class, but I think he weighed in at like 217. He's actually, he's not 230, but most of the wide receivers in this class are less than like 205. So if there's anyone kind of looking for that bigger kind of X wide receiver, he kind of stands out in this class.
We had, don't worry, Eric. I know I titled this the running backs.
We're not even 10 minutes in. Take a chill pill.
Hey, when we create the VIP program, they get to be the directors of the show. They're allowed to. Actually, I don't even think Eric cares. They like saying win. It's the Win Pack spinoff.
Pete, how close are you to like selling off your actions as NFTs and people just get to decide what you do in your life?
literally this sentence that I spoke right now, Eric paid for that with an NFT. This is Eric's in my ear right now telling me what to say. What was I going to pull up? Oh, I was going to pull up Sam's question here. Would you rather have 2 of the wide receivers between 5 to 10 in your rankings, or the top guy, whoever that is for you?
Really great question. I took Chase at 102 in that draft, and I've been trying to get back from so I said I was kind of rebuilding. I have Ridley and Juju on this team, and I've been trying to deal both to try to get into some of these other receivers. Have not successfully done it, but I've been trying to get more than one. A few people have gotten a couple of them. And maybe my asking price is too high or whatever, but I've actually toyed with this exact question basically. And I got an offer to move back on the Chase pick to go to 103 and get the 112 and a future second. That was a super competitive offer to move up basically one spot, but Chase is kind of, Pitts went 101 in this draft. So Chase to me was totally in his own tier. And that's why it was such a competitive offer, but I had to question that. I could take somebody at 103, one of those receivers. I could take a Marshall at 112, which ultimately he went 110. I wouldn't have got him, but I could have got Tylan Wallace and got an additional pick. I think I wish I would have done that. As good as Chase is, and Pat, I'm really interested to hear your answer to this because Chase is so good. But the more that I'm looking at the rest of this class, I'm I just want exposure to multiple guys in Dynasty, especially in these deep Dynasty leagues. I want to get 2 or 3 or 4 of this rookie wide receiver class on my rosters.
I would take Chase over the guys at 5 to 10. If you said 4 to 10, maybe my answer would change because I have Terrace Marshall as my wide receiver 4. No, he's actually wide receiver 5. Maybe that would be enough to say, okay, can I get Terrace Marshall and Rondale Moore or Chase? I think you almost have to take Terrace Marshall and Rondale Moore. But it's still close because one of the reasons we're excited about Terrace Marshall is because it's hey, he didn't do anything as a freshman or sophomore, but he's blocked by Jamar Chase. How could he? So it's dependent on Chase being a star. And, we just saw Justin Jefferson, who Jamar Chase outplayed. So part of me would just say take Chase because he's just such a high floor prospect, and his ceiling is, top 5 NFL wide receiver.
Yeah. I mean, I think I mentioned this trade one of the past few weeks, but I basically had that exact same Sophie's Choice last year in a league where I traded CD Lamb for what ended up being Brandon Ayuk and Laviska Shenault, which is that, do you want the top guy or do you want, 2 guys from there? Then the question is how last year's class, we all knew that was an incredible class. I think that decision was a lot easier last year. The question is that separation this year from the top guys to that.
Chase is a better prospect than CD Lamb.
Okay.
He's a better prospect.
But okay, that's an interesting question though. I would take Chase right now. Would you take Chase? Because Lamb hit too. After seeing Lamb play one year, I'm really confident he's going to be very good at the NFL level too. Do you have any concern that Chase translates? Because he took off a year and everything. It is weird.
I mean, it's not. It's COVID, and he tested out of this world. So it's when a guy takes a year off, part of the downside risk is maybe he's kind of a shithead and really needed the LSU program to keep him on track. And it's then he crushed every combine drill. I'm pretty sure he was working pretty hard, So I'm not worried about it.
I just need you to keep talking me into being smart for not taking this, treasure chest of picks to move off Chase. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the year off. I think there's always risk in seeing how these guys translate to the NFL game. There's always risk. He just might have been a way better, well, not even way better, but a better college receiver than Justin Jefferson, a way better college receiver than Terrace Marshall at the time. And maybe that just doesn't translate to the NFL game. So there's definitely some downside risk with him, but I have him ahead of CD Lamb right now. I have him ahead of T. Higgins, who I'm super excited about. Just a couple spots, but I have him ahead of those guys because I think he's a better prospect, and I think not just a better prospect. I think he's a substantially better prospect.
It's going to be so disgusting a year after whiffing on Justin Jefferson in all of our redraft leagues to just go hard after Jamar Chase and then have him be the LSU bust. I can already see it happening.
I don't think it's happening. You know what I could see happening? I could see him being Sammy Watkins to Justin Jefferson's DeAndre Hopkins. I think that's his version of a bust, is that he ends up having a Sammy Watkins
Right. That's put well. I mean, that can certainly happen, but he would still be productive. The question then is, if that happens, what happens with the rest of this class? Because I think out of all of them have some flaws. I'm not super excited about Devonta Smith. I'm not as high as you on Jalen Waddle. I'm trusting you a little bit on him, but not super high. Rondo more concerns me, but I want exposure to these guys. But like when I start getting into like Rashad Bateman, I definitely want exposure to. Terrace Marshall, I definitely want exposure to. Tylan Wallace, I definitely want exposure to. And then Seth Williams is the other one that's a little bit cheaper and later, especially at cost. Elijah Moore, I'm interested in. I whatever. But like Marshall, Tylan Wallace, and Seth Williams are the ones that I think I'm most like kind of at cost, especially like most excited about having exposure to.
Who would you like, Pat? If Lamb on the Cowboys, Chase on the Bengals for Dynasty?
I'm going Chase.
Wow.
I mean, he's going to have good quarterback play. I don't want to get too wrapped up in the landing spot, you know? He's going to have a good quarterback, so he's not like mired in some disgusting situation. I think the better question would be the Lions.
Yeah,
that does have a chance to be disgusting.
Yeah, that would be a big time bummer.
Yeah. In that case, he would bump. If he went to the Lions, he would move down just below. Like I wouldn't panic, but I would probably put him below Lamb at that point.
Okay. Yeah, and it's hard not to be excited about Lamb going forward too. So I think it's less a knock on Lamb and more just a testament to how hyped.
It's not
you
a
are
knock on Lamb. I have Lamb very high.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have Lamb at 23 overall. Like, I'm very excited about Lamb.
Did anything else? Is the ETR? Are your ranks in front of the paywall? Am I allowed to share those?
Yeah, go ahead. I think they were, and I'm not sure if they are right now, but go ahead and share.
No, I was just curious if it looks like they are.
Pat, what do you think about that take that it's sort of flat? Because you were saying you would do it if it was wide receiver 4 or wide receiver 5, and through 10. So it seems like you think that second tier is, and that's mostly just draft capital, right? That is elevated because, like, from a profile perspective, what separates the wide receiver 2 from Seth Williams right now? Like nothing.
I mean, Seth Williams has roughly a 0% chance of being a first-round pick.
Yeah, other than draft capital is what I meant. Is it just draft capital?
Yeah. But I guess the part of it is like I also use draft capital as a proxy for everything that's not in the numbers. Like a lot of, there's stuff that's not showing up that is important. How these guys look on tape, what NFL scouts think, like that is an important component in all of this. And that's captured in draft capital. So draft capital is sort of a 2-for-1. It's opportunity, but it is also a talent evaluation. Like, the NFL scouts have pretty strong opinions about how good these guys are, and it's based a lot on tape. So I imagine that maybe there's something we were missing a little bit between, Devonta Smith and Seth Williams in terms of their tape. If I was just using numbers with equal draft position, I would prefer Seth Williams over Devonta Smith straight up. I mean, the analytical profile is strong.
If they went back to back in the draft, you would prefer him, right? Seth Williams.
Yeah. If Seth Williams was like in discussion of a top, even in like the pick 25 of the draft, first round, I'd draft Seth Williams first.
So I mean, this is like that's like a really interesting way of putting it because draft capital matters. Everyone acknowledges it matters, but like. The profile stuff that we look at, I always think back to like what Douche used to say. Like it was essentially that we can like we should start with draft capital alone, but we can use this profile type stuff to dictate like which first round picks are less likely to hit a first round type expectation and which later picks are more likely to actually break out. It doesn't guarantee anything. Draft capital still matters a ton. But like that's super important to know going into the draft. And like for like a guy like Seth Williams, if he gets like 3rd round draft capital, I'm going to be super stoked. I'm going to think he's going to be able to outproduce that and be a guy who could be, very much a fantasy force, if you will, at some point. And I think he has a chance because he's like the only one with size. Some team could fall in love with his size, right? And then flip side, guy like Devonta Smith, you still have to trust because he's a first-round pick that he's got a chance to succeed, but he's not as good of a chance to succeed as other first-round receivers.
Exactly.
Because of those red flags.
Exactly. And like all that stuff, all the, him winning the Heisman and how great his senior year and like, yeah, that's why he's going to go in the draft where he is, so that's, the draft position is accounting for almost all of that, maybe all of it. So that's where some of the stuff that maybe isn't factoring into the draft position as much, like the fact that he didn't have a true breakout season until his senior year. And even then it wasn't like enough to kind of overcome what he had not done to that point from a career perspective. But with Devonta Smith specifically, I actually in my rankings, I kind of give him credit for a couple things. I basically view him as a productive 4-year guy. I'm not viewing him as like an unproductive 4-year player just because of the circumstances around Alabama. But the point remains, he still wouldn't have as strong of a analytical profile as Seth Williams or Rashad Bateman or Rondale Moore or frankly Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore checks a lot of boxes that we're looking for. He's just not as exciting because he's 178 pounds. He's 5'10", but he ran a 4.35. Like I just don't forget to include Elijah Moore, in your mind. Yeah. It's kind of flat tier because he belongs there. He belongs there right with Rondale Moore. Tutu Atwell, who's 155 pounds, I think is a little safer to forget about. But I think Elijah Moore, if he lands in a good spot, he could be a fantasy star for sure.
Yeah. There's just so many of these wide receivers that I want exposure to, man.
Well, this is what happens during rookie draft season too. You start to fall in love with a lot of these guys, knowing that the true probability hit rate isn't proportional to our love.
Oh, but I think part of the issue as well this year is that there's no interesting running backs. We're going to get to that, but I've been delaying it. But yeah. I think the running back class in those ranges where when you get in your rookie drafts and you get into the wide receiver 5, 6, 7, 8 range, and you're maybe in your running back 4 or 5 range, like I prefer the receivers to all those running backs.
Sam was asking what the analytics are that I'm talking about. The biggest thing is, did a guy declare after his 3rd year after high school? So, even if you're a redshirt junior, you're not a true early declare. So that's big. Then did you break out? Did you have a season above the 30%, not the 20%, which is sometimes used, but the 30% dominator rating at any point for those 3-year guys? I really care about that. I also like to see career numbers. So career dominator rating, career market share of yards, especially for the 4-year guys. I think that's very, very important because you want guys who started producing early, were productive their entire careers. And even if they stayed for their 4th season, maybe the NFL scouts are basically just wrong because a lot of these guys, if they're legitimate high-end NFL prospects, they'll come out after their 3rd year. And if they're staying, that's generally a sign that the NFL was kind of like, we're not that interested in you. Think Tyler Johnson last year. Super productive his entire career. There's no interest in him after his junior year. He has an awesome senior year. And he goes, 6th round? No one's interested. So that's the type of thing that when a guy stays 4 years, it's a pretty big red flag. And if you just look at the historical hit rates and stuff, it's a really big red flag.
And it's a red flag because draft capital equates to opportunity. There's no way around it. Even if you're a good receiver, and Tyler Johnson very well might be. He's looked like it a little bit. He barely played, but he looked decent. But when you're a 6th rounder, you don't get on the field. When you're a 1st rounder, you do. It's just, the guys making the decisions of where to draft these guys are the same ones that are making the decisions to play them on Sundays. You can't get around that. They're going to play the guys they invested high draft capital in. It's just the way it works.
Yeah, 100%. And then there's some other stuff like how early did you break out? Your yards per route run. That's a big one that I've been looking at this year. And, looking at past years, it's made a difference. How good your yards per route run were, how good your yards per route run were compared to the teammates that you had. In a similar way of the dominator rating, like you're getting a certain percentage of your offense. Were you standing out from an efficiency standpoint compared to the rest of your teammates? Because sometimes guys have really high yards per route run because they're in an awesome offense. So when you have a big gap between your teammates and yourself, pretty good indication that you're actually driving that efficiency. So
this is the stuff that I love hearing from you, because a lot of the stuff you said before, not to say that, like, you know, you're not all over that, you are, but like, it's kind of a secret of the industry, or maybe not a secret to some people or a secret to others, but like, there's a lot of people with models out there, but all of the models are the same. Like, they all include the things you said at the beginning. They include the early declare, they include the career market share, some type of team adjusted number. Some of them are like yards
per team attempt,
or a market share of yards, or market share of touchdowns, dominator rating. It's some type of team volume, pass volume adjusted receiving percentage metric, whatever it is. And then, yeah, like you said, early dominant or early declare. There's like a few things that every model is looking at, and they kind of have been since. I mean, as far as I know, most of this came from Sean, like the breakout age and stuff. Like, a lot of that came from the old school RotoViz days.
Anthony Mako's done a lot of good work on the early declare stuff. Blair Andrews done a lot of good work on this.
Blair's done great stuff. They've all advanced it over the years, but there's a lot of people out there.
John Moore was one of the early guys with
OGs, for sure. And he's looked at some other great stuff, like the return. That's another thing I know you look at, right? The return yardage and multifaceted yardage production, right? Like,
particularly where we don't have numbers we can trust on the athleticism. If a guy's like a special team star, this is one of the things with Waddle. We don't have athleticism, but there's a lot of other context clues, including his outrageously efficient play on special teams, that he's a special athlete. So yeah, I think especially when we're kind of trying to figure something else out, that special teams context is important.
Yeah.
It's
really interesting though that like everyone's looking at these same numbers, and then a lot of people interpret them differently. Anyway,
yeah,
we could go about that for a long time, but
can I address the Devonta Smith question?
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah. I think you can't ignore the early declare thing, because he played his fourth year and now he's going to be a top 15 NFL wide receiver in the draft, right? So if he had come out as if you want to evaluate him with through a different lens and say he's a third year guy, he did this as an underclassman, and I'm going to give him second round draft capital and evaluate him through that lens, I think that's totally fair. Like, let's just pretend that he didn't do the senior year. It gives him a higher floor. We know he can definitely play now, but what's his NFL picture if we just take away that senior year, give him a little bit lower draft position? I think on the other hand, you have to evaluate him as a 4-year guy, because his draft position is coming very much from the fact that he won the Heisman. This is not lost on the team that's selecting him. So that increased draft position is going to have a big impact in the way we're viewing him. And so therefore, I think you have to consider the fact that he did not declare early.
So for you, Pat, and like kind of where you're ranking him, you're saying like his second round grade last year is closer to what he actually is.
That's more or less what I'm saying. I'm kind of, though I think I have him slightly ahead of where I would have last year, giving him a second round grade and saying he wasn't productive. I can actually pull that up. Let me see.
This is one where I think we're trying to put too much context in. Like, the guy, he didn't declare early. Regardless, I mean, I don't know. I think we're trying to layer in too much stuff and say.
I like him quite a bit more than if he was that second round prospect. Sorry. Sorry.
Okay. You do now like him quite a bit more?
I do now because I am giving him credit. Even, yeah, I like him more.
Because you're giving him first round draft capital, or as a prospect? Because last week he said his senior year didn't matter to you at all.
Get your story straight, Pat.
Yeah. I read my notes from last week, Professor, and I want to know what's going on here.
I have him higher now with the draft capital. Yeah.
Okay. But without it, like as a prospect,
he is worse.
Right. Okay. Perfect.
Although
essentially just following his draft capital. If it went from a second round grade to a third round grade because he didn't win the Heisman, then you'd be saying he's, a third rounder or a bad third rounder.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Let's talk some running backs. We did put it in the title of the episode.
I just want to talk about receivers, though.
I know. I know. We all love receivers. Is this really like it? I was listening to JJ and the Hitman from the Footballers talk about the running backs today. It doesn't seem like anyone is excited about this running back class.
Yeah, it's not that exciting a running back class, but I don't think it's a terrible running back class. You've got 3 guys up top that are all, pretty legit. I think none of them are the level of like Jonathan Taylor. Probably none of them are really even to the level of DeAndre Swift, but they're all 3 pretty solid prospects. And then when you get past them, most people think there's a big drop off. I'm starting to think that there isn't a big drop off, specifically to Kenny Gainwell, who, when I update things, will probably move up.
I've not seen him referred to as Kenny yet. Are you guys on a nickname basis?
I believe he is referred to as Kenny or Kenneth. I've heard both.
Move up ahead of Harris?
No. Sorry. I think he'll just move up in the overall ranks. Gotcha. I'm getting excited about Gainwell. And then once you get past him, Michael Carter is like a very kind of uninspiring type of guy. He's a bit older and he's definitely going to be, I think, more of a scat back type. And then Trey Sermon has, I think, a pretty high ceiling, but we didn't see it consistently from him. And then like Radre Stevenson is a guy who I kind of think is interesting, but he's already kind of like a 3rd round rookie pick flyer type. So it falls off quickly. But I think it goes.
What's your issue with Hubbard?
Well, he had a terrible senior season. He didn't run very well. He doesn't catch passes, and he might get drafted day 3. But other than that,
Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play?
I think you're too low on him.
I don't. I keep like looking at Hubbard, being like,
clip that. I don't.
I think I might be too high on him.
Just that's one of the guys that people are excited about as like a sleeper, and you're like, no.
No, it was the response of like, you're just here kind of like nitpicking at my rankings that I've spent hours and hours and hours on it. Like, I actually have already thought about this, and I don't think I'm too high. Was Chuba Hubbard? Why? I mean, is it just because he has a cool name, or was he a much more highly touted prospect like heading into the last year of college football?
He had an awesome 2019. People thought he would come out, and he didn't. And if he had come out at the time, maybe he would have been a 2nd round pick.
Okay. What draft?
Wait, I want to go behind. Sorry, I want to go behind him to some. Like, who are some of your? Before we get back to the top, like, who are some of your favorite really late guys? Because I was looking at this. Your ranks earlier. This Kylan Hill guy.
Kylan Hill's interesting, yeah.
You had, was it Herbert? Keep going down. Who are some of the other dudes that you like showed a little bit of excitement in your profile on?
Well, it's not a deep class, so move back up.
Okay, Elijah Mitchell, is that? Yeah, that's a dude that you're vaguely interested in.
Yeah, the guys I'm interested in, like if I could pick 2 guys to land in good spots with good draft positions, it would be Radre Stevenson and Kylan Hill.
Okay.
I think those guys are really interesting. And I actually think Trey Sermon's pretty interesting.
You said he profiles as a bigger version of Vito Smith. I don't know how much more glowing you could possibly make it.
Exactly. You guys get it. I'm super psyched about him.
You are nothing but realistic with your comp.
Yeah. Radre Stevenson is interesting because he didn't run a ton of routes, but he was awesome in yards per route run, and he was awesome in elusive rating. Committee back, but he's big. He's like 230 pounds. He has probably the same 40 time as Najee Harris, which isn't good. Like a 4.62, I think is what he ran. But he's a big back. He has decent agility. So, and he catches passes.
So let me kick you a quick hypothetical. This is purely hypothetical. It's not for any reason that I might need, but I might have, like, let's just say hypothetically, you had back-to-back picks, about 6 picks away the only running backs that have gone in your draft are Najee Harris, Javonte Williams, Travis Etienne, Gainwell, and Hubbard. And that's the only 5 that have gone. Every other back is on the board. You're 6 picks away. You think you want to look at some backs in these back-to-back picks. What are the ones that you're like you would trade up for, you feel really good about? I mean, it's like, do you have Carter and Sermon and those guys ranked highly because you really like them, or are you just kind of following the draft capital situation? I mean, it sounds like Stevenson's the guy that you're next most excited about, right?
So I have it ranked Carter, Sermon, Stevenson, but I'm probably just following the draft capital with Carter. I say he profiles as a young Giovanni Bernard. Like, I don't see a real ceiling for Michael Carter. He had worse yards per route run than Javonte Williams last year, and Carter was supposed to be the receiving back. So I'm not sure that he's going to be like a super dynamic guy at the NFL level. I think if you're just like kind of in that range where you're starting to swing for the fences at running back, you're better off taking Trey Sermon and Ramondre Stevenson, because Trey Sermon definitely has a high ceiling. The tape guys love him. Matt Waldman has him as number 1 running back, like number 1 running back in the class, which, he does some off the wall stuff.
These tape guys drool all over him. Josh Norris hears his name and comes sprinting to our chat just to write his name in here.
They love him, but that's kind of what you want, right? Like, you're getting this late, you're getting the guys with incomplete profiles, so you want the guys who flash big time upside. And Sermon was another guy who's really good in elusive rating. And that's like what all the tape guys say, is that, he's going to be able to avoid tackles, break tackles at the next level. I think I'd go with Sermon and Stevenson. Both those guys have good size. Both of them showed really well in flashes, committee backs. So we need to see it, if they can do it in a bigger role at the NFL level. I should probably move them ahead of Carter, just because if you take Carter, you're taking him over one of those wide receivers we just talked about liking a lot. And I just don't know what kind of ceiling he's ultimately going to give you.
What's his projected? You say here it's not clear if he'll go day 2.
The thing I like about him is that I do think he'll go day 2, and I could see.
Sorry.
Yeah, Carter.
He just read a thing from Sermon.
Sermon,
sorry.
I could see going 2nd round or 5th round. Like, I think there's a pretty wide range. I'm not sure what to. If I had to guess, I'd say it probably goes like round 3, but I'm pretty sure Carter will go round 3. I'm not nearly as certain about Sermon. And then Stevenson, who knows? Stevenson could go 6th or 7th, or maybe he sneaks into the end of round 3. So big wide range with those guys, but
Carter's the one that you feel like will go day 2.
Carter, I think, is pretty safe to go day 2. I'd say he's probably like an 80% chance of going day 2.
Let's talk about the top of the class, though, because we had a fun conversation about this.
We're having lots of fun.
Yeah. Sorry, Pete. I'm just cutting you off because I have so many questions. I said this last week. I had questions for Pat about the running back class. It was, why is ETN not just in his own tier? And then I did actually have this conversation with Pat, and he sold me on Javonte Williams. But now my question is, why is Etienne and Williams, like, why is Najee Harris even near these guys is my question. Like, I don't think he has the type of profile that will have a fantasy ceiling at the NFL level. He can catch passes. You talked about this last week a little bit, or a couple weeks ago, that he has actually a pretty good receiving profile, but like, he's not explosive. He's not explosive. The upside is like a Leonard Fournette role where he gets fed target volume and he's big and is running enough. It's like, it's just all volume. And he might get that, but like, the ETN upside is like Jamal Charles. Like, it's not necessarily you're going to get there, but it's like an explosive league-winning season. You don't get that from just 250 touches and hoping that a bigger back gets enough catches in a league that is increasingly defining running back roles. And I have a serious concern for Najee Harris that he's not going to get the receiving work, just like Josh Jacobs. Like, every big back that we want to get receiving work that doesn't get it. I don't know. I just don't see where his upside matches anywhere near Etienne's. And then to your argument, which you made a great one about Javonte Williams, his either. I mean, those two should be the clear 1 and 2, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Harris has a chance to go first round. And if he goes first round, it's probably to the Steelers. And if he goes to the Steelers, they probably use him as a 3-down workhorse. And then he's, kind of like what we hoped Josh Jacobs would end up becoming instead of that, pigeonholed into a 2-down role.
So, like any running back, if they get a perfect fit, are going to be in a good spot. If Harris gets the perfect fit, if he draws the nut spot with the Steelers, then sure.
But I think he would be pretty good in Atlanta. I think he'd be pretty good with the Jets. From what I'm hearing, he's a pretty good fit for that zone type of scheme, and he's also people are kind of excited about the receiving ability that he has, that he can kind of run those wide receiver routes. Now, his yards per route run weren't that great. They weren't terrible, but they weren't that great. But he did run a bunch of routes, which is nice to see from your running back, that he was involved in the passing game. They did, consider him a weapon there, even if his yards per route run weren't that great. Although, again, not terrible. So he can catch the ball. He can be used in that capacity, and he might get in a position where he's getting workhorse usage. It's a little hard to say he's not in the top tier because of that alone, because that's just so much of what makes a great running back for fantasy. And some of the guys who have run like 4.6 or lower have been superstars. I mean, Arian Foster famously had a terrible 40. So
yeah, but we can't do that. Come on, we can't be that show.
Well, I'm sort of defending him as the RB3 here. I'm saying I'm not a Harris as the running back 1 in this class guy. I have him as my running back 3, and I actually have him below Waddle. So this is coming from like a Najee Harris bear, but I'm just saying I think he's still got enough upside to where, he's a chunk play guy. He lands in a spot where he's getting a true 3-down role, and the other guys do have enough holes in their profile. Like ETN, I don't think he's Jamal Charles, because I don't think he has that same, lateral ability. He's really,
but the
he's
point
really
is
fast.
He has upside, and the running back position, like that's all I care about, kind of. Does the guy actually have that upside? And I don't think Najee Harris does. Like, he's not special. Like, running backs kind of don't matter except for the few that do. And
he does have an 81 in the running back prospect model.
Okay.
At Rotoviz, which is a pretty decent
Harris
score.
does?
Harris does, yeah, because he's big and he caught passes.
Okay.
I mean, that's it. I'm pretty sure that's why the model likes him, because he's big and he's going to have good draft position. He's big and he catches passes. Like, the model's like, cool, you're good. You're not terrible. And so I would be careful about Harris. Is the type of guy that I think numbers guys like us have a tendency to like want to be too low on. And so I'm sort of like holding the line here a little bit on like, let's not bump him down too far. A lot of people think he's the top running back in the class, and I have him at like 5th or 6th overall. Like, so I'm probably not going to own any of them already, but I don't think we should say like, oh yeah, he should basically be like a 2nd round rookie pick.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say that.
Yeah.
Talk about
I know
Williams,
you're not trying to say that, but
talk about Williams a little bit.
Williams to me is like, he gives you the profile of Harris, but he's 2 years younger. He's more athletic. He's big. He breaks tackles. He had a better yards per route run. He didn't get used as much as a receiver, but he's playing with Michael Carter. I think ultimately he could have very similar draft position. So what you're like, why wouldn't you prefer him to Harris?
So you held the line very well for Harris, but those are all the reasons to like Williams more. By like a lot, right? Like that is all so much more exciting to me than Harris's profile. But
yeah, Javonte Williams has, I think, a decidedly more exciting profile than Najee Harris. And if the draft position is similar, if the NFL basically says, yeah, these two dudes are kind of similar prospects to us, then I'm gonna strongly prefer Williams to Harris.
So after now you have me more bearish on Harris. So you would take Harris over Pitts even if Harris didn't go to like that good of a landing spot?
Why are you so low on Pitts?
Yeah, that's what I'm.
This isn't tight end premium.
But you're only 6 in tight end premium. What are you doing?
Get your story straight,
when's the
man.
last tight end prospect that we got super excited about? Who
Kyle Pitts?
actually
I don't
turned
know.
into a
It's
star?
never happened.
Yeah,
There's
it's like
no
never
comp
happened.
for Pitts, man.
There's tight ends have a very low correlation between how good we think they're going to be and how good they are. It's
He's
like
a wide
the hardest-
receiver.
If he gets used as a wide receiver, then I'll be very happy. He'll be awesome for the NFL. And if he lands in a landing spot where I'm confident he will be, I'll move him up.
This is a positionless league now?
I hope it is, man. But like, you know, you just saw like Evan Ingram get used like Jason Witten for an entire season. So I'm not sure every NFL coach agrees with you.
That was
So,
a real good
If we look at your rankings
That was a real good point.
earlier tonight, Pat said Devonta Smith was no better than a second-round pick, and he has Kyle Pitts right next to him. So I mean,
I have Kyle Pitts above him. What do you want? I got to have someone after Kyle Pitts.
Wow. I think you need to go back in the lab, and I think you need to think long and hard about what you've done.
All right,
with
where
these
would you
rankings.
guys rank the generational prospect?
I mean, I want
Tight end
Pitts
premium
more.
2. Literally,
Who's
I
that?
think he should be a top 2 player with Jamar Chase right now.
Not in regular PPR, man.
No, in tight end premium. I said
Oh.
in tight end premium.
Oh, okay.
I think in regular PPR, your ranking of 7 isn't that crazy. It was just shocking to me to see that in tight end premium he only went up to 6. Like in tight end premium, if you hit on a dude like that, it's hard to get tight ends in tight end premium leagues. I know you play in a lot of tight end premium dynasties.
Yeah, but it's not hard to win leagues without a tight end in tight end premium leagues. That's the secret of tight end premium. And the deep ones, just don't worry about tight end and win the league. It's not hard.
So that's why you have him ranked 6.
Yeah,
because
you
it's a
can
whole
get, like,
philosophy about not caring about tight ends.
Trade get for Ferkser for cheap. Get Jonnu Smith. Like, you just don't need to chase these tight ends. It's a quick way to burn a lot of your draft cap,
It's
a lot of
fair.
your team capital.
You
I
hate
picked up
fun.
a lot of
I get
Logan
it.
Thomas last year, and I
Yeah,
still have
that's
him
great.
in a lot of leagues.
That's all you need. That's more than all you need.
That's more than all you need. You're right. Fair.
All right.
Why did you make me the Kyle Pitts bear? This isn't fun at all.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
he's like super good at football.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
the
I know he is.
community. We're all having a Kyle Pitts party, and you're just
damn it.
poo-pooing it.
Yeah.
I like Kyle Pitts. If Kyle Pitts is used in the right way, he's going to be a superstar. But you just
I
can't
don't think
count
you
on
can
that.
rank him 6 in tight end.
You just
premium.
told us landing spot is generally overrated. Get your story straight, Kerrane.
I don't think it's overrated at tight end, specifically with a move tight end who's basically a glorified wide receiver.
That's super flex tight end premium. That's why you have him ranked 6. You have quarterbacks ranked above him. 1, 2, 3, 4 quarterbacks. So you have him second behind Chase. I was thinking just tight end premium, not super flex. Okay.
Isn't it
So
more
that whole
concerning
argument
Pat
was
couldn't defend?
literally you agreeing with me.
I like in hindsight. All right. Now that I learned how
Wow.
to read.
Wait, no. It's more concerning that you didn't know that and could defend that there. You just went along with it.
That you were. I didn't even know that Ben. There was so much yelling at me that I didn't even know Ben was referencing in premium.
Look,
Right?
man, I haven't eaten for 5 straight days. You came on late. I was fasting, and now I'm drinking alcohol, and I just broke the fast. Things are loopy up here. I'm just yelling.
Yeah, Pete. I don't know. You know, off the top of my head, I couldn't remember if you were referencing 6 is the regular rank or the tight end premium superflex rank.
No, I really don't have a horse in
I
this
think
race.
we
I just
rattled
like ragging
Pat.
on you. Yeah.
We rattled them a little bit. Like he doesn't want to be the Kyle Pitts bear.
I don't want to be the Kyle Pitts. I'll put him 1. I'll put him 1.
Yeah, because if this is what's gonna happen is you know how what happens in the like fantasy football community where there's like the generic subtweets, like it'll be like 2 months into the season, be like, can you believe people were ranking Kyle Pitts behind Najee Harris? And it'll be a reference to Pat. It'll be a complete Pat subtweet. You know it's happening.
Yeah, I know. That's how this goes. It's part of the fun.
Yeah, I am a little bummed out just now that I'm starting to get my feet wet in this class relative to last year's, because last year's was so fun.
Yeah, it's not as fun as last year's because the running backs aren't as deep, and so the wide receivers are going to get snapped up quicker. But the tight end class is interesting. This guy, Brevin Jordan, I'm really psyched about behind Kyle Pitts. Now, drafting rookie tight ends is generally kind of tough because they take a while to develop. But I do think Brevin Jordan's pretty interesting. I hope he goes day 2.
Do you like him more than what did Pete call him last week? Frankenmouth?
Freiermuth?
Wow, dude, you got it.
Well, I read it.
Yeah, you called him Frankenmouth. Yeah, I like him better than Freiermuth for sure. But I think in Superflex, this is a really, really fun class because the quarterback depth is something that we didn't have last year. You know, even though there were 3 guys, there's 5 guys this year. So that'll help out to make up for some of that running back depth. And if your goal is to draft wide receivers, is we're often trying to do,
right? There's
those wide receivers are there. Yeah,
honestly, this is like my favorite class ever because you can ignore running backs after the first few, which is sort of like our typical redraft strategy. Yeah, like my dream. There's a few good ones at the beginning of redrafts, and then we just ignore them. And then there's a lot of other people will take running backs or take other, and then we can just find wide receiver values that are interesting. This wide receiver class is going to be good. I don't know that they're all going to be good. Everyone is pointing out that they all have flaws. They're undersized. There's a knock on all of them. Some of these wide receivers are going to be very good, and they're going to be guys that are going to surprise us a little bit. I can't tell you exactly who. I told you earlier.
Please tell us. Tell us exactly
who.
Tell us.
I want exposure to all of them.
God, what a cop-out answer.
No, I mean, I told you. I think Seth Williams is like relative to price, and Terrace Marshall relative to price, and Tylan Wallace relative to price. Those guys are going to be good.
Good only relative to price, though.
Well,
have some conviction. I want to hear you make a call on someone in a vacuum who's going to be good.
And then Pete, you go.
Okay. There's this guy Frankenmouth, dude. Total beast. Early declare. Kind of reminds me of Cole Kmet, honestly.
That's a pretty good comp.
Marshall's going to be good. Terrace Marshall's going to be good. And in fact, Rashad Bateman. Rashad Bateman is the one that I've come around on. He's my wide receiver too, I think.
Come around on?
Well, I know.
You down on him?
We we did this whole thing with him. Like, you were with Waddle at 2 last week. Bateman is my wide receiver 2. He's the guy that I want over anyone else. And I like Rondale Moore a ton too. I think he's interesting and could be in that discussion. But and obviously Waddle and Devonta Smith. But Bateman's the one that I'll say is going to be good at football for sure.
Bateman will be good at football. It's a good bet.
So would you, Pat, would you say Waddle has a higher ceiling, but Bateman has a higher floor? Or will you not concede? Do you think Waddle has higher both?
No, I think Bateman has a higher floor than Waddle.
Yeah.
But you have Waddle as a higher ceiling. I don't think that's necessarily wrong. I don't know. I think they both have a really high ceiling. It's hard to project ceiling,
It's hard to project ceiling, and that draft position comes into play there, where I don't know where Bateman's going to go. If Bateman's like around 3, like he could go early round 3. That's very plausible. And it's like, at that point, you just have to stay straight up.
Then he's Chris Godwin.
Then he might be Chris Godwin. Yeah, that would be a good comp, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. The guy that should have probably taken him a couple round, years. Yeah, and then went in the 3rd round, and then we have to wait a little bit. Then he's Chris Godwin.
Yeah.
What have you done, Ben? I know you were doing a draft, but have either of you guys done any trades, kind of maneuvering up and down the board, like jockeying for specific slots or pockets in the draft?
So, sorry. Go ahead, Pat.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that I think even just a week ago when we sort of started this, there was a fairly big consensus that after about 109, there's a drop-off. This is in non-superflex, so not including any of the QBs. So you have the 3 top running backs, you have Pitts, and then you have Chase, Devonta Smith, Bateman, Waddle, and Rondale Moore. But Terrace Marshall is definitely
he belongs in there.
Right, yeah. And so he went 10. He was sort of in a transition tier to me at that time. I think he arguably is significantly higher now, or at least a couple spots higher.
He might be a 1st-round pick.
Right, exactly. And so it's kind of like the top 10, and then Elijah Moore probably goes. And then you get into like the other tight ends, the other running backs, Gainwell, Tylan Wallace come into play. That's where there's like a gap. And if you're in super flex, that gap would then be 4 picks later. It'd be 202 because you have the 4 upside QBs. You could throw Mac Jones in there, but I don't think you really want to spend like super high draft capital. But to me, I was trying to maneuver into that top 10 before Marshall. And, I still like Elijah Moore. I still like Tylan Wallace and all those guys. And then after that, it's in the second round where the rest of these receivers run out. So right now I've been trying to trade in, and hopefully the people in my league aren't watching this, because I've been trying to trade in to get Seth Williams specifically for like days, and these picks are taking forever. And I've already kind of resigned myself to not getting him because I haven't been able to get much movement in getting back into the second round. But I think that's the other spot to trade in before the rest of those receivers run out.
Yeah. And I sent you, Pete, a draft board that I'm doing. Me and Leone are doing a startup right now. So that's the big thing that I'm doing rookie-wise at the moment. I've sent out some trade offers. I sent a trade offer to Friedman to try to get back into the draft class in the league. He immediately rejected without a counter. I was pretty bummed. But I did want to talk.
That's my co-manager.
That's your co-manager, yeah. I did want to talk about Kenny Gainwell a little bit, who we talked about how I'm on a nickname basis, and then we moved right past him. But he's someone that I'm really excited about, and I think makes this a 4-back class. Now he's definitely more of a wild card than the other 3 running backs, but he is a receiving specialist who we were worried about the size with. And at his pro day, he came in at 201. Now he is sub 5'9". He's like 5'8" and change, but he ran a 4.47. He did pretty good in the jumps, 35-inch vert, 121-inch broad jump. And he had a yards per route run in 2019 of 2.39. Wide receiver level stuff. One of the reasons that we didn't see Antonio Gibson as much as we probably should have is that, Kenneth Gainwell was there in that role. He's like a true receiving running back who can play out of the slot, do wide receiver stuff. He's also a pretty good rusher. He had 93.8 elusive rating, really strong. He was ahead of J.K. Dobbins in 2019. So what we didn't see is any football from him in 2020. So we really just have this 2019 season to go on, but he is an early declare. He's coming out after just 3 seasons. I think he's got a really high ceiling.
He's only 201 pounds, but you're in a 4.44. You're not concerned about the weight in terms of
I'm not.
A workload.
And if you look at guys who came in similarly, LaShawn, like again, upside, but LaShawn McCoy came in at 198, Ray Rice came in at 199, Christian McCaffrey came in at 202. So if a guy's coming in at 201 and he has an elite receiving profile and he's elusive, I'm okay with him being that way, especially if he just came out after 3 seasons and maybe he's still developing a little bit.
And he's only 5'8". So, I mean, like the Ray Rice type comp, the short 200-pound. Oh, man, that's interesting. Thank you. That's really –
wow.
I like that with the receiving. Oh, what?
Yeah.
The old into show beer delivery for Ben Graff.
I do like the timing of that, especially.
We're drafted after this.
You were like, no kidding. All right, cracking a beer.
That is, we've mentioned it in the Discord. When we wrap up here in a sec, we as promised, we are going to get an Underdog draft going with our ship chasing VIPs here in the Discord. So we'll get that fired up once we're done. So Ben's just getting nice and lubed up.
Pat, you got me real lubed up on Gainwell right there. I just want you to be. I want to tell you that I'm actually real excited about him now that you said all these things. I love the receiving profile that the case that you just made that he could potentially work into some rushing role. Like I already have way too much of a soft spot for receiving only backs, but man. He's short. He's stout enough. You compare him to like the Ray Rice types, the McCoy and McCaffrey types. Dude, that's exciting.
Can we? Yeah. Someone needs to clip together you being like, this running back class sucks, and you're really getting me lubed up on Kenny Gainwell. Full 180.
I think he's part of the reason why this is a really, pretty much no matter what the format, this is a really fun first round at least. And people don't draft truly efficiently in these rookie drafts. Like if you have the 202, one of these guys that we were talking about as, top 10, 11 is probably going to be there, and that way it does remind me a little bit of last year's class where you had the 202, the 203, and that could end up being Ayuk and Shenault. You're just like, wow, I feel like I'm cleaning up here in the early second. Most rookie classes don't feel that way. And I think this one, because we have Gainwell, because we have Bateman, Terrace Marshall, as we talked about with the wide receivers, I think you're going to feel pretty good about that early
super flex. Those guys will go 202, but Bateman and those guys won't go there in non-super flex.
Bateman won't.
Bateman went 107 in mine, which is tight end premium, and Pitts went 101, but he went 107. Waddle 108, Rondale Moore 109, Terrace Marshall 110. And I think those are all really good picks. Elijah Moore 111. Tylan Wallace goes Freiermuth went 112. Tylan Wallace goes 201, and Gainwell goes 202. So
that's what I'm talking about. You're sitting at 202 in non-super flex, and you're getting Kenny Gainwell, the dude I just compared to LaShawn McCoy and Ray Rice. Like it's pretty exciting. I think he's got more upside than your typical 202.
But you got to get Freiermuth to go higher, in that scenario. But I hear what you're saying for sure. Maybe it's a little at some point there though, right? Yeah. There's a drop, but then the case I tried to make earlier, there's still interesting receivers after that. You can still get
Diami Brown.
I can't say his name. Yeah, and Seth Williams and those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, this sounds very nice. This seems like what my summer is going to be.
Draft. Yeah, get used to that. Get used to that trio.
Dude, we're not guys. We can't draft Rojo now that Gio's on the team.
Oh, we can't draft a guy who doesn't catch passes now that they added a receiving back. That's no longer acceptable.
Yeah.
Okay. If sounds like a good argument.
If drafting Rojo to catch passes was the thesis of the play, you didn't understand it in the first.
I mean, I guess I did. No, but Fournette is gonna run too. Like you now have a split.
Had to drop that in there.
What were you saying, Ben?
Someone just said, look, I love Ronald Jones as a talent. I don't think this is the year to have him. What did Gio get as a?
Yeah, you're right.
A couple million.
We definitely don't want to target ambiguous backfields late in the draft.
You want to target the receiver. Gio is the one to draft.
Actually, you might be right.
Gio won't finish camp. How much did he get paid? I'm gonna have so much Gio if everyone thinks this.
Oh God!
Knock yourself out.
Ben, I don't know. We might have to rethink you.
This guy had like the number 7 pass block grade last year. They had so many issues with their passing down. You know what? Look, they hated McCoy on passing downs. They're playing Fournette on passing downs, and he was terrible. Vaughn couldn't get there. They went and brought in one of the most defined passing down players of this current generation, veteran players.
This is like when Pete told me that Buck Allen was a top 5 receiving back.
Hey, he was.
What is your issue with Gio? Gio's always been good.
Gio's like 29, turning 30. Like he's not going to add much, man. He might not make the team. That wasn't a crazy comment. He's got a 1-year deal.
Yeah, what did he get paid? Wasn't it a couple million? Did he not get any guaranteed money? I guess I don't have the numbers here. I tried to look.
Imagine giving Gio Bernard guaranteed money.
Over the cap doesn't have it right yet.
Doesn't have it either.
I really want to know what he got guaranteed.
I just want to make sure that everyone writing articles about this show have the headlines nice and ready.
Dude, if he's
I feel like I got it worse on this banner here.
If he's going to be a 15th round pick, why would you I would trade my firstborn for Gio. I already told you guys I had a soft spot for receiving backs.
Hey, Gio's not going to bring you beers on shows like your current firstborn. Did we lose
Ben frozen? Yeah. Ben looked like Gio Bernard trying to make a jump cut.
Oh, bang bang. Yeah, that'll help the internet connection. All right. We're losing Ben. But
yeah, Ben's like at a 10-second delay now.
Yeah, we are going to we're going to pop over to the Discord.
I'm back.
All right. We're gonna go set up an underdog draft. We'll share the link in the Discord. Thank you to you guys, Corey and Josh, other new members tonight. Been having fun getting the Discord rolling. Starting to get some good football conversations in there. Some good intermittent fasting
for you, real quick.
Yeah, do it.
Let me close it. Let me close with some trivia.
Okay.
In his 8-year career, Gio Bernard has never caught fewer than 30 passes in a season. Never caught fewer than 30 balls.
Is this trivia? I thought we were supposed to guess.
What is the trivia? You mean you wanted to close with a monologue?
I told you a piece of trivia. You can go ask whoever you want. Go ask your dog, Pat.
Can you imagine Ben running the trivia night at your local bar? You just all sit at tables while he tells you stats.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds like a great business model.
Yeah, not the most popular trivia night.
All right, guys. Thank you. We'll probably do a draft on stream next week. We have been teasing that. We're about to get in these best ball streets. But yeah, if you're in the Discord, pop over there with us. We appreciate you guys. Sub to the channel, all that good stuff. We'll see you guys next week.